Please, Kathleen Kennedy, stop ruining everything. But Kathleen Kennedy is all like, put another gay diverse woman in it, make it more f***ing lame. And the Disney stock just keeps going down and down and down. And then Bob Iger is all like, no, what's going on with my stocks? No, Kathleen Kennedy.
If you thought South Park had mellowed out over the years, you're wrong. The boys are back, and this time, they're going straight for Disney. Let's get real. Disney's been on a wild PR roller coaster, desperate for applause with every inclusive remake and diversity checkbox they tick. From swapping out classic characters to rewriting old-school plots with modern flair, the House of Mouse has absolutely destroyed once timeless stories. And that's exactly where South Park steps in. The show hurls grenade after grenade at the film industry's painfully obvious virtue signaling, especially when it comes to Star Wars. Only this time, Snow White has taken a massive hit, and guess who's caught in the middle of it? Yep, none other than the controversial Rachel Zegler. Let's face it, from the moment Disney announced the remake, the internet's been side-eyeing every move like it's watching a slow-motion train wreck. First came the casting of Rachel Zegler, whose comments about the original film were, let's say, less than nostalgic.
We've already covered how Rachel Zegler is a terrible choice for Snow White. Nothing about her says Snow White, and that's even leaving aside the fact that she openly detests the story, as she said many times during this disastrous PR campaign.
Don't get it twisted. Most people are absolutely here for more diversity in movies. Real, thoughtful, meaningful diversity, bring it on. But what Disney's been doing lately, it's giving more corporate checklists than heartfelt inclusion. And Snow White, she never stood a chance. Let's start with the obvious. The character is literally described as having skin as white as snow. So when Disney cast Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, they had to know they were lighting a cultural firecracker.
She's not white, but she should be. Snow White needs to be white.
But the casting wasn't even half of it. Disney didn't just remix the story, they straight up gutted its core. Gone is the prince and the romance, the dwarves, replaced with CGI beings that looked like they escaped from a low-budget video game. All in the name of modern reimagining, they say. You know, to make it more culturally sensitive and aligned with contemporary values. But the public saw right through it, and let's just say, they weren't exactly applauding. Trey Parker and Matt Stone saw this cultural mess unfold and did what they do best. Turned the whole thing into a savage roast that pulled zero punches. With joining the Panderverse, they didn't just call out Disney's awkward pandering, they set the whole strategy on fire. And poor Rachel Zegler, she didn't exactly help herself out of the fire either. When you land a role as legendary as Snow White, the playbook is simple. Show some respect, maybe keep things classy, and let the magic do its thing. But Rachel grabbed a mic and launched into full PR disaster mode. She called the original weird, laughed at the love story, and pretty much labeled the prince as a problematic creep.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
She even managed to alienate a huge chunk of potential viewers, casually suggesting people who don't like the new take could just not watch it. Real smooth, Rachel, real smooth. And just to really seal the deal, she threw in this gem. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
South Park didn't even need to exaggerate. The material wrote itself. In their no-holds-barred special, the iconic show set its sights on Hollywood's obsession with woke casting. It all kicks off with a plot twist. Eric Cartman wakes up in a world where he's been replaced by a woman of color.
Okay. Matt, I had a dream that I was replaced by a diverse woman.
Oh, not again.
Yeah.
He freak out at South Park Elementary is insane, and the boys are completely confused. And then PC Principal walks in with that smug smile and casually mocks the kids, saying they probably don't like that Indiana Jones got replaced by a female either, or that Spider-Man is black.
You think it's perfectly normal that Cartman is suddenly a black woman?
You probably don't like that Indiana Jones got replaced by a female either, huh? Probably have a problem with Black Spider-Man, too.
It was a slap in the face to every debate happening right now about representation in Hollywood, and South Park wasn't about to let anyone off the hook.
Kathleen Kennedy is down on set right now ruining the new Bambi movie.
Any diverse woman in it, make it gay.
Bambi's a baby deer.
Fuck baby deer, put a chicken in, make her gay.
The show turned the heat up even more, with a hilarious jab at Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, and the master of the Star Wars reboot disaster. You best believe the internet couldn't handle it.
You were telling us about the South Park thing?
Oh my God, dude. Jamie, have you seen the new South Park?
I definitely saw clips of it.
It is so funny. First of all, Cartman has been replaced by a black trans woman.
Even Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., and right-wing firebrands were all over the promo for the special, calling it timely and hilarious. But not everyone was laughing. Liberals couldn't help but point out the irony of Cartman being the voice of reason when this is the same kid who once fed a boy his late parents' ashes in a chili. Yeah, that happened. Cartman as the moral compass? That's where South Park genius shines through. They're poking fun at everyone and showing how ridiculous it all is when you take any side too seriously. And right on cue, Disney's constant misfire walked straight into the flames. The backlash against Snow White was so intense that Disney actually hit pause for reshoots, adding the dwarves back in after cutting them out in the name of progress, with CGI, no less. One glimpse of Disney's CGI dwarfs and fans were not having it. Not to mention that little people who were eager to audition for the dwarf roles were now incredibly upset.
About the stereotype.
Right.
This is about roles that were made for people of my stature that don't have the chance to go out for other roles normally.
Let's be real. The photorealistic spin wasn't charming, it was chilling. Instead of cute and whimsical, these digital dwarfs looked like they escaped from an uncanny valley nightmare. Disney tried to modernize magic and turned it into a techie train wreck. It didn't take time before memes exploded, comparisons flew, and just like that, Snow White's already bumpy ride took another sharp turn into Controversy-ville. But after all that chaos, everyone was watching for Disney's next move. Would they strut down the red carpet like nothing happened, or tiptoe away quietly and hope no one noticed the box office storm brewing? Spoiler alert, they chose stealth mode. According to Variety, Disney ditched the usual glitz for a whisper-level screening at El Capitan, and the European premiere? It had no flashing lights in Leicester Square or star-studded spectacle. Instead, they tucked it into a secluded castle in Segovia, Spain. Disney even dropped a polished little promo. Spend the day with Rachel Zegler in Segovia. Waiting on a wing. What did this actually mean? Please focus on the scenery, not the reviews. So, what does all this whispery promo point to? For a film drenched in drama and internet shade, this quiet rollout didn't feel magical. It felt like Disney was bracing for a box office avalanche. In the end, what was supposed to be a bold, modern retelling quickly turned into a branding nightmare. Because here's the thing. When you strip away everything that made the original iconic and try to replace it with hashtags and hot takes, the magic disappears. You'd think Disney learned their lesson from The Little Mermaid. Sure, Halle Bailey's casting as Ariel faced some criticism, but the movie stayed true to its core, keeping fans mostly on board. But Snow White? That thing isn't just updated. It's borderline unrecognizable. It wasn't just the movie Disney needed to worry about, though. Rachel Zegler, the star of the Snow White remake, practically handed South Park a feast with her interviews. The thing is, Rachel Zegler didn't just want to remake Snow White. She wanted to rewrite the fairy tale rulebook, and not everyone was here for it. See, to a lot of people, Snow White isn't just about glass coffins and poisoned apples. It's a classic good vs. evil fable, a timeless tale of innocence, envy, and the danger of vanity. But when Zegler opened her mouth, it didn't sound like a bold new take. It sounded like a full-on takedown of Disney's sacred ground. The Daily Mail went nuclear, calling her comments a woke tirade. Variety piled on, accusing her of trashing the beloved original. As City AM's film editor Victoria Luxford put it, trashing a Disney classic is basically cinematic heresy. Why? Because Disney doesn't just sell movies. They sell nostalgia, that warm, fuzzy, Saturday morning in your pajamas kind of magic. And when the star of a remake casually rolls her eyes at the OG version, fans are left wondering, if you hate the story so much, why'd you sign on in the first place? But oh, Rachel wasn't done. Not only did she shade the original, but she proudly declared that this Snow White wasn't sitting around waiting for some prince to save her. This Snow White wanted power, purpose, and a kingdom to run. Out went the dreamy ballad, "Someday my prince will come." In came a brand new anthem, "Waiting on a Wish." All about boss moves, self-love, and smashing the patriarchy one high note at a time. Because apparently, in 2025, longing for love is out, and solo reigns and self-rescue are in. Of course, Disney, in full panic mode, started scrambling. Rumors started swirling that they reached out to South Park's parent company, hoping they could tone things down a bit. But that's not how South Park operates, and Disney knew it. The roast was already well done. And then came the real punch, the opening weekend. Rachel Zegler lived through the kind of Hollywood nightmare that could make even the most seasoned starlet rethink everything, sitting in a practically empty theater, watching her own movie flop in real time. The long-delayed, controversy-stuffed woke Snow White didn't just underperform, it ghosted the cultural moment entirely. On March 25th, 2025, Rachel rounded up her ride or dies, Ilda Mason, Jorge Mason Remy, and Maria Isabel de Mason, for what was supposed to be a fun night at the movies. Instead, they walked into a theater that looked like it had been hit with a cinematic evacuation order. Ilda Mason gave the world a cringe-laced front-row seat via Instagram stories. She screamed Rachel's name as it popped up in the opening credits, because someone had to bring the energy, and Rachel tried to play along, laughing and cheering for herself with all the enthusiasm of someone pretending this wasn't low-key humiliating. Now, it's unclear whether they rented out the whole theater or if those empty rows were just part of the vibe. Either way, the seats told a brutal story. No one showed up, and just when you thought it couldn't get any more painfully ironic, Rachel stood there clutching a bouquet of flowers. Not from the Academy, and certainly not from Disney. Probably just a sweet "we tried" gesture from her friends. Because let's be real, the box office sure wasn't handing out any gold stars. The numbers don't lie. With just $3.5 million in Thursday previews and a dismal $43 million opening weekend, woke Snow White didn't just flop, it belly flopped in front of a global audience. For a movie that cost over $250 million to make, this isn't just a loss, it's an industry facepalm.
How much did this cost? They should get doged looking at this movie. They spent $250 million bucks making that movie.
To put it in perspective, The Little Mermaid remake made $95 million in its debut. Even Dumbo, yes, Dumbo, the CGI flying elephant, pulled almost the same opening numbers with a fraction of the budget. Now, as theaters look emptier than ever, critics and fans are piling on. Social media is drowning in photos of empty screening rooms, sad seating charts with 2 dots lit up in a sea of blue, and lonely souls watching the film solo. The meme machine went into overdrive. Some even joked about starting a GoFundMe to help Disney break even. As Disney's Snow White remake crumbled at the box office, the internet did what it does best, dug up receipts. And front and center in the roasting lineup is an old clip. In this now viral video, a younger, wide-eyed Zegler stares into the camera with unwavering confidence, boldly claiming that despite her flaws and cracks, she hopes people will wait in line to see her movies. Well, it seems like the line might have been a lot shorter than she imagined.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Fast forward to today, and the only line anyone's waiting in is on social media to drag her. One unimpressed user nailed the mood perfectly. Welcome back to reality, princess. Snow White was a complete flop. No glass slippers here, just shattered expectations. And of course, conservative fire starter Ian Miles Chong couldn't resist tossing fuel on the flames. He reposted the now viral clip to X, adding a not-so-gentle reminder: Snow White now wears the crown, as Disney's lowest-performing live-action remake in decades. And he wasn't the only one.
This is really a bad movie, and I apologize to Walt Disney himself. I'm sorry.
The film's been dubbed Snow White and the 7 Flops by the internet, and honestly, it fits. Between the sky-high production costs, the backlash from fans, and the awkward PR tour that seemed allergic to the original fairy tale, this remake never stood a chance. As Snow White continues to fall from grace, one can't help but wonder, is this just a rough patch for Disney, or is it a sign of a larger trend?